we need to do our part to make sure that all kids are reading at grade level, especially when you come out of third grade.
Especially those that have been historically underserved, that those students have an opportunity to be successful. That's why I ultimately became a teacher.
It's pretty clear that if you can read at your level by third grade, it's a great indicator of future success.
Children come to school in kindergarten, and I think there's an old paradigm that had us thinking something magical happened in kindergarten for children in terms of their ability to read. We now know that that is in fact not the case.
The state of Arkansas experiences quite a few challenges in our education. We're 49th in the nation on the number of citizens that have a college degree in the state of Arkansas, and that's a 4-year degree or post-secondary credential, and we're 46th in the nation in 2010 with those with the 2-year degree. If you go backwards in the trajectory, meaning starting from 12th grade back to kindergarten, then that means that by the time they get to 12th grade, they're not even ready for college. If we aren't able to get our young people to read, to value reading, to read well, we will continue to be 49th and 46th in the nation respectively on post-secondary credentials. And that's just not an acceptable statistic to the Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation.
There's no one stakeholder who has all of the answers. It's not just about the schools. It's not just about the parents. It's about communities, it's about families, it's about schools, it's about sort of the community organizations, it's about political leadership. And so this work to really try to bridge across the different silos that exist is one that's very well aligned with what we believe philanthropy can do best if it wants to achieve impact.
Like you all, Target believes that every student deserves a quality education regardless of race or class. That's why we are giving $500 million to education by the end of 2015, bringing our total commitment to education to date to more than $1 billion. These resources, combined with our innovative education programs, are designed to help kids learn to read proficiently by the end of third grade and put them on a path to high school graduation so they are ready for college, a career, and life.
In New York City, in the fall of 2008, the New York City Department of Education put out a report that they do every year, the progress report, and they reported that they had a 92.6% average daily attendance rate throughout the city for elementary school, 92.6%. Looking at the same data set, the new school found that actually 1 in 5 of those kids missed a month or more of school. And when you think about the scale of New York City, that's 90,000 kids who missed a month or more of school that year.
The reality is that attendance matters a tremendous amount, much more than we ever realized, even starting as early as kindergarten, possibly even earlier than that. What we know from national research is that if you don't just look at unexcused absences or truancy, but look at all absences, for low-income kids in particular, who are 4 times more likely to be chronically absent than their affluent peers, it has a tremendously detrimental impact, long-term impact, on their ability to do well in school.
The solution, like with so many businesses, so many different efforts, is not one idea or one implementation, but aggregating what we know and then using that in a coordinated basis. And obviously, early childhood education has to be a part of that, and making sure that kids, even in their first couple years, are getting access to quality early childhood education. That we make sure that that includes a real focus on vocabulary and language skills.
85% of poor children not reading at proficiency. Until we get to 100% of kids reading proficiently at the end of third grade, we won't have one. And that, to me, will be a success when we get there.
A few companies that you may have heard of, Twitter, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, Intel, a number of those companies, that is who I work with on policy issues. We will know that we've been successful with our policy issues if every boy and girl sitting in a classroom has both the capacity and the opportunity to work in one of these companies, run one of these companies, or start their own.
I would consider it a success if we had all of the city's public agencies and community organizations really focused on getting every child to school every day. I would consider it an unbelievable success if we had people realizing that where they ought to be spending the money is not on prison and incarceration, but on the front end for children birth through 18 in opportunity-based programs.
The problem is clear about summer learning loss, and we have evidence of promising solutions. But despite the growth of national organizations like Horizons and Bell and many high-quality programs across the country, there is still unmet demand of dramatic proportions. Only 25% of parents reported their children enrolled in a summer learning program, and of that, approximately half were eligible for free or reduced lunch. When asked the parents of non-enrolled children, would they enroll their children in a summer learning program should it be available, overwhelmingly, over 70% of lower income parents said yes.
There is no issue that is more important in our pipeline. We know it. The research shows it to us over and over again, that if we don't actually get our kids reading by third grade, it makes everything, every single thing in the educational process more difficult.
In Oregon, we spend almost, and it's not a big state, nor a rich state, we spend almost $1 billion a biennium on children programs 0 to 5 across 6 state agencies, dozens of different programs, many of them connected to county counterparts. They are not coordinated, they don't measure outcomes across the programs, and they're not connected to the K-12 system or to the larger healthcare system. The average cost of treating a child in the system is about $7,500 a year, and less than half of the estimated children who need services are actually getting them, and only 25%, maybe 30% at best, of these at-risk kids are going to meet state reading benchmarks in the next 2 years. Now, that's just not acceptable.
I couldn't be more excited about this group coming together. I think the alignment in priorities and strategies with where we're trying to go is extraordinarily tight. And as you guys, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, we don't need another study to tell us how important it is to get our babies off to a good start. We know that. We simply haven't done that work effectively enough. We haven't done it in a strategic manner. We haven't done it in a coordinated way. And this group coming together to lead this effort, I think has huge implications for the country. So Ralph, I thank you for your leadership. You guys have an amazing reach around the country. And if we can find ways to drive this conversation, more importantly, not drive the conversation, but drive changes in behavior, drive different interventions, drive a systemic strategy, getting to those children and families who need the most help, then everything we're trying to do around college and career readiness, raising standards, better assessments, then that starts to be much more meaningful.
X-Men. And a dirt bike man. Police. I want to be a grown-up.
In Georgia, more than 380,000 children under the age of 5 are cared for out of their homes. More than 60% of families have 2 working parents. 20% of Georgia's children live in poverty. 36% live with a single parent. And 28% of Georgia children live in families where no parent has full-time, year-round employment. Thanks to the visionary leadership of Governor Zoe Miller, Georgia was one of the first states to enact universal pre-kindergarten. Funded by the state lottery, Universal Pre-K promises every Georgia child, no matter what his economic circumstances, the opportunity to enter school ready to learn.
We are preparing students to become lifelong learners. For example, when building a house, you start with its foundation. The foundation needs to be solid and strong. Once you have built that foundation, you can be assured that the rest of the house is going to be solid and strong. Pre-K is the foundation in our students' lives. If they start solid and strong, then the rest of their educational years will be solid and strong.
Georgia Pre-K began as a very small program when the lottery was first announced in 1992-93, and today we are now serving 84,000 students across the state of Georgia. Georgia Pre-K is a universal program, it's a voluntary program, and it is a curriculum standards-based program, so that it has all of the characteristics that a nationally recognized program should have. Last year was an enormous year for Georgia Pre-K. Last year we celebrated the year of the millionth child in Georgia Pre-K, and we are the first state in the nation, let me repeat, the first state in the nation to serve 1 million children in a universal voluntary pre-K program. So Georgia is very, very proud of that.
He looks for Amy, but she had run off crying.
We know that if children are going to read well by the end of 3rd grade, they absolutely have to have exposure to oral language. You need to love them, you need to hug them, you need to feed them, you need to play with them, but all the time and all of those things, if you're not talking to them and listening to them, they will not read by the end of 3rd grade. So that, for me, is a deal breaker in that environment of early care and learning.
Then she dropped her sister's marbles on the kitchen floor.
The investment of our children at this age is crucial. Research has shown us over the years that children learn the most between 0 to 3. It's almost, if you could picture a window being open. And it's our responsibility as educators and parents to put as much knowledge and positive outcomes into that window before that window starts to close.
Very good.
There is a huge difference in my mind between a child who comes to school ready to learn and a child that does not. A child who comes to school ready to learn has more of an opportunity to continue learning and to be ready to embrace early literacy skills. They do well in embracing math skills. Those students are less apt to be retained in earlier grades. They enter 4th grade ready to read to learn rather than to learn to read.
If you really want to talk about challenges for our children, children from lower income families, the data make clear, arrive at preschool having heard 30 million less words than their more affluent peers. That gap in the amount of words that have been heard, the language to which the child has been exposed, has been demonstrated to be a very, very strong predictor of reading success in school. The language has to be coming in the room like air is coming through the vent, because that's going to be their oxygen that's going to predict not only their survival but ability to thrive in an informationless society. Without language, you're lost. You're not competing.
My skin in this game is that I see the families, the consequences of children not reading at grade level when they were 8 years old, and now they're parents, and they're raising a 2nd generation of kids who won't read at 3rd grade. Moreover, we also know that children who don't read at grade level are at risk of a host of things: pregnancy too soon, drug use, winding up in the juvenile justice system, this turns out to be a deal breaker for kids.
We have enormous waiting lists. We had over 10,700 children on wait lists to try to get into Georgia pre-K across the state.
We have 138 children on the waiting list, and that's unfair. That's because we just don't have space for our 138 children. So in the back of my mind, if you were to walk with me, that's 138 children that are not being served. That's 138 children that are just home or wherever. That's 138, maybe double that, of parents that are unemployed because they don't have anyone to watch their children who they trust that will make a difference. Funding is needed. It's needed. If we could take the roof off and add 14 additional classrooms just in this center, parents in this community would just blow away.
It'd be tempting to think that this is an education problem only. It'd be tempting to think it's a social problem and that we need to wait on the government, or we need to wait on foundations, we need to wait on school districts and departments of ed to invest and make this problem go away. But the reality of it is that this is a problem that we all must own, because our economy today and tomorrow is distinctly different than the economy of the past. And if our children are not reading in this economy that is before us, they will not only put themselves at risk, they put our nation at risk.
Policymakers can make sure that there's quality early learning care is available to all families and increase the number of pre-K slots in the state of Georgia. They can also raise the license standards for early learning centers to make them quality centers for our kids to attend.
Every child in Georgia is born with the same potential, just not the same opportunity. Here in Georgia, with all the people and resources and leadership we have, we really do have a chance to lead the nation. And in the vision statement of GEARS, by 2020, Georgia will lead the nation in ensuring that each child is ready to learn in kindergarten on a path to read to learn by third grade. That's the excitement. Georgia can be out front of the rest of the nation if we have the political and moral and civic will to make it happen.
What AmeriCorps does for us is it provides us essentially a full-service model to meet the needs of all kids. And there's that extra support, that extra boost for our kids that really aren't at grade level and are working hard to be at grade level.
How are you doing today?
Good.
Good. And what was your favorite part of the day so far?
It offers something that a teacher cannot do on their own. We wish we could, but we can't. And so having someone who is trained and who creates a relationship with kids and gives them a safe place to grow and become better readers is so invaluable. And it benefits everybody. You know, their families, the kids, teachers, the whole school. So I think it's incredible. I really do.
We feel privileged that our school has this program that other schools might not have. To be able to read is such a valuable part of education. And at an early point in her elementary school years, she got the help she needed.
Did you have a good day?
Mm-hmm. We feel very grateful for the Reading Corps and for Ms. Kolachi.
Being a literacy tutor impacts the lives of so many children. And you see it firsthand when you're working with them, the impact that you have on them.
Will you be back in time for lunch?
You got every single word. High five, Lenise. Woohoo! All right, I'd like to hear you read this next little paragraph. Can you read from I'm
not sure. I'm fabulous.
Language is a game. It's also, to me, the most serious play there is that's possible for our early childhood educators. and to make language games at every opportunity. Have fun. The most serious courtship in the world should be the gift of our early childhood educators to children who are not getting it in their home, and seize every opportunity to enrich those concepts. We need to understand early childhood is the preparation for reading. Early childhood's emphasis on concepts, the cognitive and linguistic aspects of reading, is such an important contribution. But there's also another one. That's the affective one. There's nothing like feeling that everybody else knows all these words and what to do with them, and you don't. Our children who hear 40+ million instances of words, they can play with words. They know a great deal more than just what the word means. They know how it's used in different contexts. They can have fun with it. And then when they learn to read, they can run with it. Not so with our children who have different courtship, different feelings about language. Affect is really an important aspect. When a child thinks that they're a failure at 5 and 6, by 8, they usually are.
Plus E-N-E.
I wasn't a very good reader until like the 6th grade when they put me into a reading program, and from there I excelled.
The Very Hungry Caterpillar was my favorite book because I'd like to eat when I was a kid, and so did he.
I was one of the first students to pass New York State reading exams with 100, so I was real proud of myself after that.
I chose that one until my father saw fit to give me something different. He realized it was a book I enjoyed. And enjoying it, he no longer looked at it as it being a form of punishment.
And once I knew I could read and I could do that well, that was it. I loved reading. My children are always reading, from my oldest to the youngest. My oldest actually plays teacher with the kids, so they're always reading.
The Reach Out and Read program is very important to my family because it's given my family an opportunity to learn more about different books.
And what we do in our family, instead of the parents always reading to the kids at night, our children read to us bedtime stories. I want them to be proud of the fact that they can read and that they're reading so well and that they can comprehend, that they're just not reading words and don't know what it means.
Mother, just glorious, said Mother. Even DW was having fun.
And he's looking at me. I see him glowing because he's like, yeah, Daddy's proud of me. Daddy, think I can see. You know, I give them, I show them what my parents can show me. It is overwhelming to see my kids grow, to watch them learn, to know that I am a part of this process with them. You know, excuse me.
Hi, this is Magic Johnson. I played 13 years in the NBA. I won 5 NBA championships. I even made the NBA All-Star team 12 times. And I even had time to win an Olympic gold medal. How did I get there? As a kid, I practiced every day. You know what else I did every day? I went to school. Graduated high school, first in my family ever. Went to college on a scholarship. School is why I made it big time. That's why I'm here today. In New York City last year, 1 out of every 5 kids miss a month or more of school. That's crazy. School is your best shot to a better life, better job, better money. Trust me. And hey, mom and dad and grandma, it's your job, school every day. It's the law. It's your child's future. No one calls a shot in your life but you. So look, don't drop the ball, pick it up, run hard. Every student, every day, spread the word.
we're in the midst of education reform, as all of you have been talking about, but I think we've been there before, but the stakes are never higher. We're seeing something happening, and that something is that communities are coming together to make change across the prenatal through 8 continuum. They're looking at their data. They're trying to make sure they have healthy pregnancies, children thriving at 3, successful and eager at 5, successful and well-rounded at 8. These are the kinds of things that I think we're after. We're excited about the principles that are guiding us. We're excited about our commitment to effective programs and family engagement across the 2 departments. And we really believe that this campaign and other campaigns across the country will only succeed not just at systems reform at the federal and state level, but getting it down to communities where it really happens.
Our goal is to think about improving the health, social, emotional, and cognitive outcomes for children birth through 3rd grade, which is a mouthful, but a really important place for education to be.
We're really driven by this imperative that at age 3, we begin to see gaps in vocabulary development and language development that then persist, and at kindergarten entry are upwards of 60 points between our low-income children and their more affluent peers. What we've said is, let's establish a race to the top in early childhood education. Let's call for an Early Learning Challenge Fund. We're moving forward with Congress to forge this Early Learning Challenge Fund, and we're not going to stop until we're able to establish this, and we think it's critical. We think it's critical to be able to have a vision of excellence that will really help drive early learning policy and early childhood education and development policy across the country. This is our moment to be able to really establish that foundation.
There is no issue that is more important in our pipeline. We know it. The research shows it to us over and over again, that if we don't actually get our kids reading by 3rd grade, it makes everything, every single thing in the educational process more difficult. Let's look at 2 children, one from a middle-income family, the other from one of the millions of low-income American families. As the 2 kids head off to kindergarten, look what happens. The middle-income child starts out with a 6-month lead. The low-income child is already falling behind because of a lack of access to early reading and preschool education. During their year in kindergarten, in the same school and classroom, the 2 children will learn at about the same rate, so we'll move them both forward 9 months. But look what happens in that first summer between kindergarten and 1st grade. Our middle-income child moves ahead about a month in reading because learning of one kind or another continues over the summer. The low-income child falls back about 2 months. So when school begins again, when they go back for 1st grade, the gap between them has already widened. During 1st grade, again, they move ahead at about the same rate, another 9 months. That next summer, the activities and lifestyle of the middle-income family keep that child moving forward, but the low-income child has fewer opportunities to reinforce good habits like reading, and that child falls farther behind. Then we come to 2nd grade, and again, our 2 children learn at the same rate. But the summer after 2nd grade sets our low-income child back again, and our middle-income child moves forward again, and the gap widens again. By just the 3rd grade, the 2 children are already far apart. By the end of 5th grade, the gap between the children is 2.5 to 3 years. It will keep growing through middle school. So you see, without addressing what's happening during the summer, it is impossible to ever catch up. It's impossible to close the gap. No matter how much high-quality learning goes on from September to June, Every year the gap widens.